I do think the inducing of trauma and dissociation is more common than we realize when it comes to these programs that recruit kids and try to find kids with high psi abilities. A lot of stuff around GATE programs in the US, I think, are going to come out in the next
programs?
year. GATE, G-A-T-E,
What does that mean?
Gifted and Talented Education.
Oh.
Yeah. I think Stranger Things as a show will look a lot more real than people now think it is in a couple years from now. Whitley has a really interesting story where you did a great podcast with him that everybody should check out, but there were experiments done on him as a child at Randolph Air Force Base near San Antonio, I believe.
Did he tell you about when he went to Mexico?
Yes. Yeah, that was very strange as well. Yeah. So I don't know what to make of, I don't know if you like have like a theory there, but I mean, that's, I think, less of an uncommon story than people realize as well. These like GATE programs, these gifted and talented student programs, recruiting kids.
Stranger
for,
Things type shit.
Stranger Things. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Whitley, first of all, when he came on that podcast, I didn't know he had an implant. And he fucking dropped that on me right when we started recording.
By the way, touch the implant or see it?
No, I didn't touch it, but he showed me a video.
You should have, dude, because that thing is weird.
Really?
I touched it.
He sent me a video of it. There's a video of it I have, and then he showed me like the x-rays of it. I saw you touch it though. Yeah, that's crazy. He says that it moves around.
Yeah, that's what he said. He said they tried to take it out and it just moved like which also is a common thing that you hear of. These things move on their own metabolism, which is that's very common with the implant thing. So again, it points to this kind of biological drone thing.
Have you read all Whitley's books, or did you just read?
No, I've just read Communion.
So there's a bunch of other stuff.
Oh, and I read his book on Jesus, actually.
Oh, did you really? Okay, yeah, I read that one too.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of interesting stuff that he didn't include in Communion that he does include in his other books. This fella I had on the show, Jason Giorgiani, is like
I've seen that episode.
He is a historian of Whitley Strieber. He's read every single book front to back multiple times, and like I spent like 2 hours on the phone with him before I had Whitley in here. Yeah. And there's a lot of other interesting things, like wild things that he left out of Communion. Like for example, there's one scene in one of his books, I can't remember the name of the book, but where he talks about when the alien girl is like riding him.
Okay.
He says there's a CIA guy in the room watching him. A CIA guy that he knows.
Watching him have sex with an alien.
Watching him have sex with an alien.
No way.
And like how do you explain that? First of all, why'd you leave that out of the book?
Yeah.
What was going? I think I don't remember if I asked him about that in the podcast, but like there's so many just bizarre, and then also like the history of him going to Mexico.
Yeah.
And like he didn't want to talk about that to me on the show. I don't know if he talked about it with you, but like apparently there were some kids who went down to Mexico and he was a part of it, where he was at some house that was like guarded by the military, and it was all military stuff, where they were like subjecting children to watching like murder videos of people getting like tortured and murdered and stuff to do something to their mind. Yeah. To induce some sort of trauma to these children. Right. So if you combine that with his stories, I don't know what to make of that.
Well, I do think the inducing of trauma and dissociation is more common than we realize when it comes to these programs that recruit kids and try to find kids with high psi abilities. And this is going to sound nuts to the average person who doesn't believe that there's any sort of mind-matter interaction or whatever. But parapsychology has been studied at elite universities since, mid-century. Stanford Research Institute, Princeton, Engineering and Anomalous Research, Paralab, Duke, the Rhine Center from 1931 to 1960 was the first one in the U.S. And I think aerospace has known about this for a long time. And unfortunately, I think we have a dark past, checkered past when it comes to MK Ultra, which came out in the Church Committee in 1975. And I think MK Ultra and a lot of the psychic stuff dealt with trying to find kids and induce trauma. And so I don't know if, I find Whitley to be pretty honest in his readout of things, he's like a good guy. And then like, I
don't know what to make of any of this stuff. I just listen to what people say and repeat it. Like,
me too. Sure. Yeah. Well, I think And then you can obviously remember things falsely as you're, a kid.
Right.
And so I don't know on that, but I would be lying if I weren't to say that didn't kind of pattern match to other stories that you hear. So
Whitley story.
Yeah. I just interviewed a psionic asset on my show.
Oh, Jake Barber?
Not Jake Barber.
Oh.
But Jake Barber does say, he says, he kind of hints at this. He goes, I was traumatized. He had a really rough childhood. His stepfather didn't treat him super well. And he kind of talks about how he was gifted as well, where he was like, he had matched colors up as a kid with major chords and minor chords. And so certain colors would make you happy, like a major chord, certain colors would make you sad, like a minor chord. And to me, like my almost coded read on that is like, maybe, he was part of something as a kid, or maybe they looked at him, or maybe early on they thought that he had something kind of special going on. And that again, it's a lot of stuff around GATE programs in the US I think are going to come out in the next
programs?
Year. GATE, G-A-T-E,
What does that mean?
Gifted and Talented Education.
Oh.
Yeah. I think a lot of stuff there is going to, Stranger Things style stuff. I think Stranger Things as a show will look a lot more real than people now think it is in a couple years from now.
Yeah.
And there are people I know deeper than me on this who are the tip of the spear as far as investigative research on this stuff. So I'm not trying to blow up their spot. And but it's kind of weird.
It's kind of weird.
It's really weird.
That's putting it light.
It's really like it's messed up.
Mm-hmm. I'm just like my pause with the shit with people like Jake Barber and all the whistleblowers for that matter is that if I am a part of this secret government, right, or this secret rogue private organization that has possession and understands this super anti-gravity UFO technology, contacting non-human intelligence, whatever it is, it seems like something that's so much more powerful than anything that the US government would even have, or any government for that matter. And if I wanted to protect my secrets, I would absolutely send out fake whistleblowers. Sure.
I think we don't know exactly what to do with what we have. I think we have bits and pieces. Okay, take this analogy. If you had, you gave a thumb drive to a caveman, would they have any idea what to do with it? They don't know information theory. They don't have a computer to plug it into.
Right.
They just look at this thing. They'd probably try to make a fire with it, right?
Right.
So I think that's, maybe you can get some interesting derivative technology. Maybe the nickel alloy titanium, maybe we've done some interesting stuff with that. Mm-hmm. Maybe there are elements of the Philip J. Corso Day After Roswell, narrative that are true, that some of this stuff has made its way into civil side, infrastructure.
Yeah.
Elements of it. I think there's clearly falsities in that book. Like I don't think semiconductors required, alien tech to their patents of transistors that go way back to the 30s. But by and large, I think we're extremely confused and in the Stone Age on what we've retrieved. And so if you find this stuff and it's like Cold War era.
When you say we, who do you?
I mean, it's the U.S. government, the U.S.
The people who know what's going on. Okay.
Yeah. And so just like America.
Okay. I don't know if you meant me or if you meant the guy that's working on the craft.
Well, let me tell you, I got a stash, Danny. Yeah. No, I think like the programs around this stuff.
Yeah.
I don't think they know exactly what they're working with or what they're doing. And to me, that explains a lot of you need in the era of Cold War secrecy, we're way ahead of China and Russia on retrieving this stuff to begin with. Then you can keep it super over compartmentalized, right? And
Mm-hmm.
that's fine. It doesn't matter. Then all of a sudden, if the Cold War ends, and then now we're probably back in another Cold War, and it's this multipolar kind of scary thing, and China starts to catch up and eat our lunch on some of this stuff, then all of a sudden you need some civil side eyes. A lot of our best and brightest are not working at Lockheed or Northrop or any of these places. So you need to let certain things out. Yeah. And so that I'm not cynical about, a lot of these whistleblowers. I think they're genuinely wanting to come out. Why they might have some sort of top cover or why they're not dead, to me might be explained by you got to kind of let the cat out of the bag somewhat. if that makes sense, because you need certain eyes on this thing. Because I don't think we've made a ton of progress on many dimensions. You know, I've heard rumors that we have alien reproduction vehicles or, you know, advanced research vehicles that pattern match the UFOs, and we've made them flyable. And then I just don't know. I don't know if that's like, you know, how much progress we've actually made. So, and then even if we have made progress, it's really that fundamental question of like, if we're at parity with China or Russia, then this stuff has to come out somewhat, if that makes sense. And then we live in this like information age too, where it's just like impossible to keep a lid on this shit. And I do think there's these snowball effects where somebody displays a tremendous amount of courage, like David Grush, where he pieces together all this stuff and he, you know, goes forward to the IC Inspector General, gives him 1,000 pages and, you know, offers to say, I'll go in a skiff with anybody and I'll you know, show you where the bodies are buried and I can give you the exact addresses of the, you know, facilities and stuff. And he does this in front of Congress. And I think if you're on the program, you're somebody like Jake and you're seeing that, you're like, this guy's really courageous. And it like, it inspires you. You know, it's like the Bannister effect. Roger Bannister broke the 4-minute mile. And then 10 people broke the 4-minute mile like 2 years after him. I think you see somebody go a little, you know, you've had like moral qualms about what you've been doing already. And you see somebody like, you know, take it this far and you're like, okay, well, I know a little bit more and I can probably help with this effort. I'm gonna go a little farther. And so.